What is up, everybody? Sean Sheehan back here with another episode of the Size Up for SevereMMA.com. This episode is before the big UFC pay-per-view card this week, UFC 224, which goes down on May 12th in Rio de Janeiro. And it's an interesting card, maybe flew under the radar a little bit. It has the bantamweight title up for grabs in the main event as Amanda Nunes comes back off of a bit of a layoff against Pennington, who's coming back off of a long layoff, and we'll get to that in a second. In the co-main event then is a big middleweight fight as Ronaldo Jacare Souza takes on Kelvin Gastelum, two, what are the top 5, top 6 ranked guys in the world. With the title fight coming up there soon, Yoel Romero against Robert Whittaker, that is an interesting one. It could be the next contender. So I'm going to talk about those two fights mainly. Might touch on a couple of the other fights coming up here on Saturday night as well. And we'll just get into a little bit of analysis if you haven't seen this before on usually the couple, either the main event or the main and the co-main. And my picks as well for the fights, and also my bet of the week. So I've an evens bet of the week this time, not a big one, but I think it probably will come off. The card is Saturday night if you're in Ireland or the UK. Starts at 11:15 over on Fight Pass. Then it moves at 1 a.m. over to Fight Pass as well and BT Sports, and then at 3 a.m. the main card kicks off on BT Sports. So I want to get into the main event first of all, and Amanda Nunes versus Raquel Pennington. And before I get into maybe the analysis of each fighter and stuff, I think it's important to mention as well for Raquel Pennington, she's been out for a year now. And that could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. We've seen it go different ways before. Look, I think she actually broke her leg, so she wasn't. Sometimes a person might be out for a year. They might struggle to have gotten fights. Something might have had an injury, shook it off, and then took a while to come back. And maybe they were improving, took time off to improve and get better. It's difficult to know how much time she's had off getting better as a fighter and how much time she's off getting better as from the injury. So I think that's an interesting thing to come in here and look at. She's still pretty young in her career. I think she's only 14, 15 fights. And there's still big improvements going to be made. There are big changes, maybe if not improvements in her game. So that's an interesting thing to look at, I think, coming in here. Going back watching the tape, she is, to me, is a very interesting fighter in that she is the ultimate counter fighter. And when I say counter fighter now, I don't mean, you throw a jab, I'll counter it with the left hand, or you go in low, I'll counter it with a knee, or whatever, the normal countering we see. Everything she does, from watching her tape, in her recent fights anyway, when you can look back at her old fights, she's a lot different and she's improved an awful lot. But everything she does is countering the other person. Oh, well, almost everything she does. And I'll get to that when I say almost. I'll get to that in a second. You throw a jab, she'll counter it with a left hook. You come in, go for a takedown, she'll move back. Lots of fighters, they're countering fighters, and lots of fighters are attacking fighters. They'll lead the way. They'll try to take the center of the cage and win the fight that way. But she's not. Everything, literally everything. You throw a leg kick, she'll check it. She'll come back with her own leg kick. You throw a left hook at her, she'll move out the way, she'll counter it, come back in. That's everything she does. She waits for you to come in to do something, and then she'll counter it. And when I say almost everything, a second ago, what I mean is the jab. Her jab is something that she uses well, and it's something you don't use very well in MMA. But she uses the jab very well, and as I said, she counters a lot, but she sets up those counters and brings out shots from her opponent for her to counter by using the jab. So she does that very well. Whether she's jabbing to the stomach, long jab from the outside, coming in with kicks behind it, if she gets you into a jabbing match, that's what she wants. Because she jabs, then you jab, then she can counter. And that's what she's best at. She's best at countering. So, to see her jabbing and getting jabs back from her opponents, that's exactly what she wants. So that's very much what she is as a fighter. And we'll get into another, couple of things about her in a second. But for Amanda Nunes then, she's the opposite. She is an attacking fighter. She will go out at it. She will, take you on. She has no interest in waiting for you to see what you're going to do. She'll go in and she will fight her fight against you. So that makes it an interesting fight. Just looking at those things, someone who counters, someone who comes in and attacks. So look, logically you're thinking Nunes is going to come in and attack, Pennington's going to counter, and that's likely the way the fight is going to be. Now, Nunes is, I've said it for a long time, even before she was champion, she is the most talented fighter in that division. She's good everywhere. She hits hard. She's an unbelievable athlete. Her striking technique is unbelievably good. Her jiu-jitsu is good. Her wrestling is good. You know, she's strong. She can really do it all. Maybe the only issue with her is cardio, although she has, you know, she's gone long now in fights recently, especially her last fight. And so she's proven that as well, although I think that would still be an issue, maybe if Pennington can test that, but I think that's a long way away. You know, Nunes, what does she do well? She comes out fast, she jabs, she throws shots after it, unbelievable leg kicks. You know, if she gets you in trouble, she will finish you off. I watched that Miesha Tate fight last night preparing for this, and you know, it's one of the nastiest beatdowns we've ever seen in MMA. And you know, that's a good fight to go back and look at. To you know, when you're talking about this fight, you know, everything she does is, she just inflicts pain on you. You know, even when she fought Shevchenko, she did it, you know, fighting very good fighters. Maybe she holds back a little bit, and that's a big thing for fighters like her. Can they hold back a little bit going into these fights? You know, that might go 5 rounds, someone that's going to hang on against them and do well. That's another interesting thing. So that's another kind of, you know, knife in her drawer, if you want to put it that way, that she can, you know, she can add bits to her game all the time and get better. So that's an interesting thing as well. But she's very much, you know, a Vitor Belfort, a Conor McGregor, come out fast, attack hard sort of fighter. So that's where Nunes is very good. So molding those two things together, where is this fight going to go? It's interesting because, you know, Raquel Pennington, thinking about her, how is she going to fight this fight? She's probably going to try to counter, but she's probably going to get hit as well, because Nunes is such a fast twitch muscle fighter. It's going to be very hard for someone to play a countering game when the attacker is faster than you. So, you know, if someone throws a punch at you, for you to counter, you have to be a little bit faster than them. You have to see it coming. You have to, you know, you have to be very smart in that game. And that's going to be very hard for Pennington. So, look, a lot of those exchanges are probably going to be won by Nunes. You know, let's be honest with it. So what's Pennington going to do after that? You know, she could clinch her. She could go for takedowns and stuff. You know, logically you're thinking about things like that, but she's a good attacking clinch, but her defensive clinch isn't very good. Nunes has a good clinch, so if Nunes can beat her attacking clinch, can beat the attacking clinch of Pennington, she can turn around and attack herself with a clinch. So that's another interesting point, I think, here, if it gets to the clinch like that. So, you know, is she going to be able to take her down? Is Pennington going to be able to take Nunes down? I don't think so, to be honest. I don't think she's going to be able to beat her in the striking as well. Nunes has very good trips and stuff like that from the clinch. Pennington has good takedown defense relatively, but she has been taken down. She's good at getting back up. She's strong there. Like, Pennington is good everywhere. You know, she won't be destroyed anywhere, but I think she'll be beaten everywhere, to be honest. And you know, that's my pick for the fight. I think Nunes will win this, and I think she'll win it wherever she wants. I think she will probably win it in the striking. You know, Pennington has fought some very good people. She's fought Andrade, she's fought Holly Holm and others, and Miesha Tate, and done very well. But Nunes is a different beast. You know, there's nobody who hits as hard as her in that division. You know, Cyborg obviously in the division above. There's no one hits as hard as her, and I think she will come out. I think she'll be too fast. I think she'll be too powerful, and I think she'll hit her a lot and end up winning the fight. But yeah, I would rule Pennington out, to be honest. It's MMA and anything can happen, but I find it very, very difficult to see her winning that fight. But I'm looking forward to actually the first couple of minutes to see how well Pennington does countering and see the improvements she has made in her game, you know, in that year out. And you know, I'm definitely looking forward to it, but I don't think it'll be a great fight or anything like that, or an even fight or anything like that. So the co-main event then sees Jacare Souza take on Kelvin Gastelum in another very interesting fight. And you know, watching tape for this, it's similar enough to the main event in that what one person is good at, the other one kind of counters it. You know, they're the yin and the yang very much. You know, Jacare, we know Jacare, unbelievable guy on the ground. His jiu-jitsu is devastating. If he gets you on the ground, gets your back, gets in mount, you know, it's basically over for you. Very few people have been able to get out of situations like that against him. Strikes hard from the outside, big high kicks. We saw him against Derek Brunson throwing the high kick. You know, big wailing shots from the outside. No fear of throwing them, because he knows that if he gets inside or gets taken down or whatever, that he's going to win that fight on the ground. Kelvin Gastelum then is a guy who's a blown up welterweight, basically. You know, struggles to make the weight, so comes up, uses his jab, uses his speed, uses his technique, uses his combinations very, very well to win his fights, and hits very hard, even for middleweight as well. You know, we've seen him land big shots on guys even at middleweight. So that's, you know, it's an interesting fight. Jacare, and this is why I say they're kind of the yin and yang. Jacare has been beaten by guys who can strike well, like Gastelum. See Robert Whittaker. Gastelum has been beaten by guys who can grapple well, like Jacare. See the Weidman fight, where he was dominated for large portions of that fight. So that's interesting. Who's going to win that battle to get inside and get those takedowns? You know, we've seen Gastelum has been taken down before, and those takedowns against Jacare are going to be very difficult. You know, if he gets taken down against Jacare, you know, he's going to get absolutely, you know, dominated in that fight. And maybe the same goes for Jacare if the fight, you know, stays standing up. You know, is Jacare's outside game going to be enough against Gastelum? Is the jabbing of Gastelum going to allow Jacare to get those shots off that he needs from the outside? It's a very, very interesting fight. How is it going to go? That's the thing about it. You know, Jacare, I think he's going to be very, very attacking early on. And when I say very attacking for Jacare, I don't mean, you know, he's going to come out Vitor Belfort style, you know, young Vitor Belfort, and throw these big shots, throw, you know, 10 or 12 punch combinations and that. I mean, he's going to just throw very hard often. And when I say often, I don't mean, you know, Vitor Belfort often. I mean Jacare often. I mean, you know, 3 or 4 a minute, maybe big hard shots to get inside, to close that distance, so he can get a trip, so he can overpower Gastelum. He's gone back and watched those fights, I'm sure of it, and seen that he can be taken down. He's not that big for the division. When it gets to the grappling terms, you know, he can still use his jab, use his power and stuff, and he's grand that way. But, you know, in the grappling realms, in the takedown realms, in the strength realms, I think it's going to be tough for Gastelum. What does Gastelum do then to counter that? As I mentioned, that jab. He uses the jab, uses the combinations, gets him on the back foot, you know, doesn't let him get off those big shots, pushes him back. It's going to be difficult against Jacare because he's so streetwise. If Gastelum does come in, Jacare is going to clinch with him. You know, he has good clinches, well, lands those big knees up through the middle, you know, Anderson Silva style back in the day. Will get trips. If he gets you tripped in the middle of the cage, you know, you're up shit creek without a paddle at that stage, and Gastelum won't want to be there. So, you know, this is actually a fight I'd probably like to see going 5 rounds, and it's only a 3-rounder here. But yeah, it's, you know, it's definitely an interesting one. I just think it's going to be tough for Gastelum to break down and break in without making a mistake for 3 rounds, without getting taken down. I think it's going to be tough, to be honest. If he can do it, it's going to be it's going to be maybe not so much Carlos Condit, Nick Diaz, but a very detailed game plan of striking and evasion, I think, against Jacare. I think that's what he needs. Can he do that? He can do that. You know, I think he can do it, but it's a 50-50 fight, it really is. I still think it's very hard to be perfect, and it's hard to bet for someone to be perfect. You know, so that's the reason I'm picking Jacare. He only needs one opportunity. I think, you know, Gastelum needs more than one opportunity. He can knock him out. You know, we saw him knock out Bisping, but I don't think he's going to do that to Jacare. Maybe he will now. Maybe he will. But I think it's more likely that Jacare gets that one opportunity, gets him down, and wins there. A couple more fights on this interesting Lyoto Machida's fighting Vitor Belfort, who I mentioned there. This is a very different fight than what it would have been a couple of years ago. I think Machida is hugely favoured now. You know, it's one of those attacking and counter fighters again. You know, there's a lot of those kind of fights on on this card. I just think Machida is a lot faster these days than post TRT Vitor, when he was legally using TRT. So I'm not accusing him of inventing. He's a lot faster. Vitor is not what he used to be. I think he will come in and will attack. He's still dangerous for the first minute and a half. I think Lyoto will recognise that. I think he'll step, I think he'll counter, I think he'll be careful early, and I think at maybe the second round I could see Machida getting the finish. His countering is on a different class. Even if it gets to the ground, his jiu-jitsu is good, and he can survive there. So yeah, I think Machida probably will end up getting the finish in maybe the second, third round. After that, then Mackenzie Dern takes on Amanda Cooper. I'm picking Dern in that one, but Amanda Cooper's a good fighter. I think she's not a great fighter now, but I think she's good. I think she will give Dern problems. We saw Dern's last fight didn't look unbelievable. Has changed. She's no longer with the MMA lab, changed camps. So that's an interesting fight. I'm just leaning Dern in that one. I think John Lineker will win as well against Brian Kelleher, although that's another good fight. Brian Kelleher is no mug, so I'm looking forward to that one. And maybe he can use his size a little bit over John Lineker in that, although neither is a huge man in that one. After that, then I'm going for Fehea, Olnik, Ramos, Dos Santos, Warley Alves as well. I'm picking Jack Hermanson as well there. I'm picking Imaev, and I'm picking Perez as well in the opener of the night. My bet of the week, I'm going to go for Amanda Nunes via KO. It's just over evens today. Today is, what day have we? I'm not even sure. Sunday, Monday. This will probably be out later in the week anyway. That's her price at the moment, just over evens over on it's Bet DSI one. I don't know, one of them. I looked at it today anyway, so I think it's likely, to be honest. I can't see that one going 5 rounds. So yeah, I think that's a good bet. As I said, 12th of May, this Saturday night, 11:15 p.m. over on Fight Pass, 1 a.m. on Fight Pass and BT Sport, and 3 a.m. on the main card is on BT Sport. Thanks everybody for watching. That's the video today. If you want early access to these videos in future and other loads of podcasts, head on over patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. It's about €4.10 a month, and you'll get 10-15 hours worth of additional podcasts. You get the main podcast early and everything like that. If you want to support the website, if you're a fan of this YouTube channel and everything like that, head on over there, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. As I said as well, just normal SevereMMA podcast out every week, normal, over on our feed for free still, and it'll still be episode 161 this week. SevereMMA.com as well. Keep it locked there for all your updates on Irish MMA and more. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.